TrueHouse, episode 460. Bear with me. And good evening to Instagram as well. Okay, alrighty guys. I've been deep in research, so look at me, 23 minutes late. Pretty good, pretty good. Better late than never. Okay, JFK for episode 460. Let me get out the usual intro. I'm Justin House. This is TrueHouse. So, just in fact, before I go into JFK, because it won't surprise anyone to know that I'm researching again, researching something I've always been fascinated in with the whole JFK thing, ever since I saw Ollie Stone's original film in 91, I think, with Costner. But before I go headlong into the whole JFK conspiratorial fact, let me be very clear now. It's a good thing about time, isn't it? A good thing about history. The theories become provable facts, actual, palpable, tangible, empirically proven, pick up, look at it, data. So yes, with the passing of time, the what would be the right word here? Not premonition, but the prediction at the end of JFK that records will be released. We're still 7 years from seeing what will be released in 2030, but time will tell. Prophetic is the word I was looking for. Okay, I would be remiss to not mention the admission, speaking of truth, and if I'm to categorize myself and using the modern structure of compartmentalization and intersectionality, then I firmly fall into the truther bucket. I refuse to lie. Today, I think it was today or yesterday, it gave me satisfaction. I wouldn't say joy, but I'd say satisfaction. A little bit of, one of these, like told you so. Not only have or are mouthpieces like AOC, if you don't know those initials, that's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman, AOC, American Congresswoman, after spending nearly 2 years attacking all and sundry who haven't been vaccinated or for medical reasons can't be, or for personal reasons choose not to be. One thing that's becoming painfully, patently obvious is this constant vitriolic, this very aggressive attack mode from, to be blunt, Democrats. The president himself, repeatedly saying this is an epidemic of the unvaxxed. That's clearly not the case. Again, you don't need to do research, just look around you. We know it's asymptomatic, and sadly a lot of people don't understand what asymptomatic means. It means you can exist and function and walk around and operate without outwardly displaying, oh my gosh, look at me, I'm ill. That's how things, goodness me, that's how HIV was spread, because you can appear outwardly apparently healthy. Don't want to derail this too much, but just a very quick anecdote. Anyone here that's done 5-10 years plus, well, let me be more chronologically correct. Anyone here that's done personal training from the 90s, I am being ageist, will have had, certainly in the early to mid 90s, clients that were positive, and I had a total of 14 or 15 between London and Los Angeles that were HIV positive, and some of these people had, really impressive physiques, frankly. You know, dare I say it, Adonis-like, but from a bodybuilding standpoint, yes, I've seen jacked and tanned bodybuilders, with abs, looking in phenomenal shape, who are HIV positive. So my point being, outward appearance is not an indication of internal health. That's why there are plenty of bodybuilders walking around, you know, with CKD, chronic kidney disease, before you go into acute kidney failure, etc., etc. So that being said, that kind of preface, that Rochelle Walensky, who I've got strong dislike of, as I do of Dr. Anthony Fauci. These, narcissistic, hubristic, pathological sociopaths, these pathological liars. I think it was yesterday with Jake Tapper on CNN. He looked very unsettled. I might just put up the footage actually. And she reluctantly admitted that the CDC, by the way, Rochelle Walensky is the head of the CDC, Center for Disease Control, that the number of COVID deaths have been exaggerated by over 40%. Now, this is coming from the left. The fact that the left have reluctantly admitted that, you can bet your bottom dollar that it's going to be higher than that figure. But for the Centre for Disease Control, Rochelle Walensky, to admit on national TV this massive discrepancy, it's a delta, it's an abyss, it's a void, it's a chasm. Insert any other word you fancy in that gap, pun intended, between going to hospital for COVID and going to hospital and you incidentally have COVID. Or so, you break your leg and you happen to be with COVID, heavy with child. So now, what I've just said there, again, I'm literally just treading water, plate spinning until I arrive at JFK. What I've just attempted to convey is a hypothesis, dare I say the word CT, conspiracy theory, that was perpetrated and it was doing the rounds, certainly on social media, nigh on 2 years ago, certainly 22 months ago. I was frequently seeing on various social media platforms that figures were exaggerated. It was, in fact, as early as April 2020. If I was seeing it, you guys certainly were. You would see articles written about how the figures shouldn't be believed, and people would be admitted to hospital for a myriad of reasons, as they often are. I'm a bloke that's spent years of my life in hospitals, and that's not even mildly vanilla exaggerated. That's madly, sadly true. Over the last 15 years, great chunks of my life have been in hospital, and I've seen people admitted to hospital for a very extensive range, or a litany, a plethora of reasons, and this continues to be the case during COVID. And what's becoming very obvious is the number of admissions that have been for the sake of padding data, for the sake of keeping the narrative alive, keeping this, keeping it airborne, that, it's to be feared. But people, we heard early into the pandemic that people were going to hospital for normal reasons, but being the reason that was written down, the documented, that's what I'm searching for, the documented reason was COVID, when in reality you could have had, a car crash or a heart attack or cancer or just any other reason, fill in the blank. You get what I'm saying. So for the CDC to finally admit this, I think in the forthcoming months and years, we're going to see their house of cards crumble. And to be precise and I want to try and keep my words exact and precise. It's become a democratic leftist movement. It's become an ideology of the left. There you go. So it's unsurprising to, I sound tribal, us lot, but this is, I'm inclined to find it actually. Hold on. Let me just see. Because there is some serious breaking news. Let's have a look. It's My Ugly Mug Live. Hold on, guys. Stand by. I might switch to the iPad in future, It wouldn't be a bad idea if I could. Yeah, so I'm just looking at the My Ugly Mug on screen. Anyway, note to self, might get off the phone and go with the iPad. So look, let me get, actually, will that work if I, hold on. Alrighty. Let me just do that and, okay, all right. Okay, cool. Yeah, crazy. I'm just going to look on, let me get rid of that. I'm just going to see if I can do it on, it's worth you seeing this, you guys. So look. Oh, by the way, for those of you that enjoy seeing Fauci and Rand Paul go at it, there's been some more breaking news. I think Fauci will ultimately have to publicly, he's said himself that he was telling a noble lie. I think he should nobly resign. Sorry about that a minute ago, by the way. I was just literally looking at the iPad, and as I did so, I thought maybe I might switch to the front camera on the iPad and free up the phones. But what I'm wanting you lot to see is, and in local news, is if you haven't seen this, in UK news, our bloody Boris Johnson, I'm sorry, rules for thee and not for me. Just like, again, because I'm so focused on the American news, we've seen all these, governors and politicians and mayors and the like, just during COVID, prescribing and in many ways strongly enforcing or insisting that we, the public, do certain things. They'd love to mandate when they're their rules, yet they go off maskless. And that's that's what I was going to say at the very beginning of the stream that I forgot to say. I was gobbing off about AOC, wasn't I? I never actually made my point. AOC, who, like many of these politicians on the left, have been, driving a stake through the heart of the unvaxxed, has herself now got COVID. And it's very tempting to say, I told you so, but she did go to Ron DeSantis. He's the governor of Florida. I'm a big fan. I'd certainly like to see him as the next president. I think that would be great. But I'm Florida. I'm very pro Florida. I've got two beautiful sets of couples, two dear friends in Florida, and she's been attacking Ron DeSantis, and ironies of all ironies. After relentlessly attacking Florida as a state of the unvaxxed and literally a leper colony. Obviously, I'm being hyperbolic, but this is the stance, the attack stance, on Twitter that you see these bloody politicians take. They attack these dirty states like Florida. Yet she goes there herself and has been partying, singing in a drag club, hanging out with LGBTQAI, whatever friends, getting pissed and tweeting, totally maskless. Again, it's the extreme hypocrisy. I don't really have an issue with, actually, I really mean this. Let me be very, very clear. As a flesh and blood meat machine, as a human, I know how monumentally flawed I am. And if you don't think you're flawed, then you're extremely arrogant. As a completely guilty as charged, flawed human being, we're allowed to change our minds. And I've often changed my mind, my stance, through the acquisition of knowledge. As you acquire greater understanding and a greater knowledge of any subject, what you might have knee-jerked in the early days, especially with this whole COVID-sation, a stance that somebody, including myself, would have taken a year or two ago has changed, and it does change. But these people, specifically the Democrats, because of their extreme hubris, their arrogance and their narcissistic behaviour, their, wand-waving policies, Fauci is a great example of this. They are not only reluctant to, but refuse to admit when they're wrong, and they've been wrong again and again and again. I'd have a lot less, putting it politely, dislike of them if they frequently said, hey, as this COVID global situation changes, so do we. We are completely pliable. We are flexible. Do you know what, guys? I mean, as a layman, as just a normal, average human being, I know that if I stuck my head above the parapet, the proverbial parapet, I know that if I was a politician in charge of policy, just at the very basic, standing front and centre. I shit you not. I'm no master of public speaking, but I absolutely know, and I can say this without any sort of internal fear or any self-doubt, because I do, in the past I've done acting and improv and I really enjoyed it. If someone shoved me in front of a number 10, it's completely hypothetical. I know it's daft what I'm going to say, but if someone shoved me in front of, number 10 and I was one of those people, I would absolutely say from day one, you know what, country, what public, world, Gen Pop, as your governing body, as your centralised government, we, if I was the health secretary, if I was Sajid Javid, dickhead, arrogant little shit, if I was him, I would be saying, we at all times will prioritise you. If we appear to do flip-flopping, if we appear to do a heel turn, and literally do an about face, consider that knowledge. I mean, this is, again, it frustrates the life out of me. I mean, it really angers me, because all any politician had to do, if I can work it out, anyone can work it out, because I ain't that bright. But if any politician, male or female, young or old, Democratic or Republic, Labour or Conservative, had said at any juncture, we want to protect you, the people, if we outwardly appear to your eyes to be, again, quoting, flip-flopping, it's not. It just means we've acquired more knowledge. And if we say to you on a Friday night, wear a mask, and then over the weekend we have more scientifically proven, anecdotally driven, and sheer, numbers, sort of, just colossal data coming in showing that masks are ineffective, for example, and we say to you on the Monday, what I said on Friday about masks, we've now acquired more knowledge, lose those guys. If you'd said that, that would actually, that level of humility, that level of honesty would actually instill more trust and more confidence from the public. I absolutely believe that. I completely believe that. I can't be more serious. I can't be more sincere. I would have no problem with a Dr. Fauci or a Sajid Javid or any of these characters if they had the backbone, the spine, the integrity, the constitution to stand there front and centre and say, guys, it's not a political move, although, we are politicians, but we're literally looking out for you. If we give you instructions or recommendations on the Friday, and I'd literally use that. I'd use the weekend as an example. I'd say, please don't be alarmed if we turn around to you and enforce a different policy 48 hours later on the Monday. It means we've acquired more knowledge and we're looking after your best interests, we're looking after you, and therefore we will be seen to chop and change advice. That is the truth. That is honesty, and that is integrity. That is having the integrity to say, rather than be galvanizing and concrete and our word is final, just say, guys, we're learning on the fly here, but we are the scientists, we are the doctors, we're all going to work together, left and right. You know what I mean? How lovely would that be for, to quote Francis Collins, head of the NIH, international harmony. The greatest way of maintaining equilibrium, keeping the ship steady, course correcting, harmony, balance is through honesty, not through takedowns and smear campaigns and God almighty. So look, I've gone on for 23 minutes now about this, so look, that's a big warm-up. I'm going to drop it, but if anyone listens to this, I hope you realise that I'm passionate about this, because I do watch it, and I watch it each day, and I listen, and I'm learning. What a terrible shame to arrive at this point where each side is enjoying the takedown of the other. Listen to what I've been saying tonight, Okay, so JFK. All right, here we go. Let me just have some water. All I want to say about JFK is that in 1991, let me just check that. What was the date of Oliver Stone's JFK? It's taking its sweet time, isn't it? Okay, let me ask the phone. Good old Apple. What date was Oliver Stone's JFK initially released? 92. Okay. I was a year out. So when I first saw JFK at the cinema in 1992, I was gobsmacked. I was amazed. Kevin Costner did a stunning performance. Oliver Stone's storytelling and direction was brilliant about what happened that day. November, oh gosh, November 22nd, 1963 in Dealey Plaza, Texas. Have I got that right? That would be embarrassing, wouldn't it? What is the date of JFK's assassination? Yeah, 22nd November 63. Cool, I got it right. That would be really cool. It'd be really funny if I didn't. So, again, this is proof, isn't it? This is in the future. Will we be speaking like this about COVID? Time will tell. So, at the time of releasing this film in 92, Oliver Stone copped a lot of shit. He got a lot of heat from, again, the mainstreamers. It's always the mainstreamers that get upset, and then the outliers, you know, us lot on the periphery that like edgy stuff, that like a bit of, you know, like we don't mind being uncomfortable. I think that's probably the takeaway, is that people that like to be comfortable are the ones that are complicit and acquiesce and subjugate themselves through subserviency. And the people that, again, this is general, caveat, and the people that are unafraid and like freedom and like to be sort of, you know, they like sovereignty and autonomy, we tend to be okay with being uncomfortable if it means the betterment of ourselves and the pursuit of knowledge. Because knowledge is power, it's freedom, isn't it? So the JFK family, now, so on the 22nd of November 1963, when allegedly Lee Harvey Oswald, you know, the lone gunman, we have known for decades that this was complete horseshit. One of the characters in the original JFK film with Kevin Costner is Mr. X, played by Donald Sutherland, yes, Kiefer Sutherland's dad. And he sits there, you know, in Washington with, it's very well shot, with Kevin Costner, and he explains, you know, who did it, who benefited, how, why. It's a little bit like acting, the who, the what, the when, the where, the why. And over the, you know, through the passage of time and people dying, frankly, you know, as people age out, what was so sadly obvious, even when I was a young man, I was 20. I remember vividly going to the cinema locally here in Poole in Dorset, and seeing JFK and loving it, you know, being frightened and being upset and feeling sad, and but understanding it, and I realised it was, although it was for cinematic purposes, for dramatic purposes, things, you know, do get dramatised, but I realised it was true, and of course, recently Oliver Stone was on Rogan for the second time. And it's it's a treasure trove, guys, of information. If you're, again, you don't need to be like a conspiratorial nutbag, but if you're like me, you just seek the truth. You just appreciate not lying. You just appreciate people that don't tell lies. And, you know, the talk about layer cake, the FBI, the CIA, the Warren Commission, and above all, powerful players like Alan Dulles. Alan Dulles, D-U-L-L-E-S, he was the former head of the CIA. You know, and the CIA are just, it's, you know, again, their level of corruption is what's truly frightening. If I told you that Oliver Stone's appearance on Rogan recently, in part, was to, because Rogan himself is a massive JFK nut, it was also to promote his JFK Revisited. Now, I immediately got this on Goog. Careful what I say, because it will set it off. Yesterday, it's a 2-hour long film, and there's a 4-hour version coming soon. And the exciting thing is, in the new version, Oliver releases things that form it could be the autopsy photos, it could be more information about the CIA, about you got to remember, guys, there were 2 hospitals here, Parkland and Bethesda. Now, Bethesda is a naval hospital. Parkland was the original site where JFK was taken. We've all heard over the decades, oh, grassy knoll and, lone gunman, and, the magic bullet theory that was perpetrated in the original film. Where it, talking about a dog and pony show, where it must be made a mockery of is where you see, there's a wonderful courtroom scene with Costner. It explains how the bullet penetrated, because he went through the thoracic, T3 we call it, of the dozen thoracic vertebrae you've got. So just below the bottom of the neck there, the 7 vertebrae in the neck, and then of course 12 in the thoracic spine, and then 5 lumbar, giving us 24 vertebrae in our spine. Now, T3 is where the bullet went through, because they'll see a crossfire here. There's shots from the front and the rear. The Zapruder film, we've all seen this terrible, throat shot, which means he was getting hit from the front. The classic Zapruder film does clearly show JFK doing this, where he's actually taking one to the throat, for God's sake, in Dealey Plaza. As the car took a left, rounding that corner, it dropped below 10 miles an hour. As they say in the film, it was literally a turkey shoot. Now, what's apparent, and again, you don't need to be a gun expert to know, the Italian rifle that allegedly Lee bought for $19 from a mail order site, the Manica Carnica, what's it called? Oh, I almost had the name then. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Manica Carnica, I've forgotten the name of it. I'm just trying to be clever and name the make of the rifle. Doesn't matter. But there was one of the sort of most appropriate quotes during the Joe Rowe and Oliver Stone discussion was, there's so much fuckery. There's so much fuckery afoot. So you've got to remember, the President of the United States has just been taken to Parkland Hospital, yet the autopsy was done, at another one, Bethesda. Apparently there were literally dozens of surgeons that were more than capable, of doing an autopsy. And the only doctor present, get this is crazy, the only doctor present at both hospitals, right? So Parkland and Bethesda, was Dr. Berkeley, B-U-R, who was JFK's personal physician, personal doctor. To sort of, it's going to sound weird, but when you've got doctors saying that photos were quote unquote doctored, and I posted it on my Instagram today, the pictures are still harrowing, because this thing I've done here where people, in the, what's the word, the beginning of C, not the cavalcade, the president's, not parade, what's the word? Begins with C. Help me, somebody. Not cavalcade. What is the word? Sorry, I'm blanking on the word. Is it cavalcade? Cavalcade? No. Anyway, the line of cars. There's a word for a line of a procession of cars, and I can't think what the word is. It's really, gosh, What's it called? Anyway, I mustn't let it interrupt my flow. But I'm blanking on a word beginning with C to describe a a line of cars. I've gone completely blanking on that. It's very, very annoying. You know what I'm like, how I get internally hugely upset when I forget words. Oh yeah, yeah. Anyway, I'm just going to type in cavalcade anyway because I know it's not the right word. I know it's not. But hang on. Sorry about this, guys. Don't know what cavalcade is. Oh, it is cavalcade. Doubting myself. Procession of people travelling on horseback. So I guess, can you have a car cavalcade? Can you have a cavalcade of cars? Yeah, yeah, a procession of horses, people, cars, or carriages. All right, so that's me going bonkers. You saw it here first. Me lose my mind. Self-doubt, just. Right, so the president's cavalcade slowed as it entered Dealey Plaza to 10 miles an hour around its left-hand corner. And we've all heard these things, you know, again, often in history, through mockery. That's often a tactic employed by people wanting to, frankly, cover shit up, to be blunt. You know, they mock it and they say, oh, yeah, conspiracy nutbag, ooh, you lunatic. That's a concerted effort to shut shit down. You know what I mean? So he's been shot from the front. Now, again, you don't need me to tell you, when a human or an animal or anything or anyone gets shot from the front, invariably the exit wound exceeds the entrance wound in size. What goes in little comes out big. This is the pattern of an exploding bullet. It goes in with a little hole and makes a big mess on exit. I don't profess to be an expert, but I understand that. And you saw on the Zapruder footage, you saw the president do this, you saw him lean forward, you saw, to quote Kevin Costner, back and to the left, back and to the left. Hell, Geraldo showed it on his bloody TV show in the 70s. So we've all seen that classic footage of JFK's head frankly exploding. The subsequent autopsy shots are what I posted on my Instagram. Very distressing, very harrowing. Done a good job of patching him up. And again, this is where the doctors saying photos were doctored comes into play, because whether using, you know, false hair to touch him up or whatever, to glue him back together literally, the three things that insult everyone's intelligence. Number one, lone gunman, rear shot only. This is utter drivel, utter bollocks. It is physiologically and physically possible in terms of applied science, physics. And again, you don't need to be an expert in armory and guns to know that when a bullet enters, it becomes deformed. A bullet will change its structure and shape as it passes through metal. Well, yes, metal amongst other things, but also tissue, skin, you know, bone, organs, ligaments, tissue, just all the soft and hard shit that's in us. They would have us believe the bullet came from the Texas Book Depository, you know, and how it went through. The reason I mentioned the third thoracic vertebrae is that the Warren Commission, which included, incidentally, former head of the CIA, Alan Dulles, and Ford, Gerald Ford, the actual president who would later be the president, just literally 7 dwarves, 7 white men on a. The Warren Commission, by the way, guys, is as bent as the 9/11 Commission. It's when you have an ensemble of power, an ensemble of actors who they themselves are the conspiracy insofar as they see to it that it doesn't get to trial. They, the Warren Commission, and again, they, to be specific, the CIA, the FBI, these are the people that assassinated a president, a sitting president. You know, we can claim about Trump getting banned off Twitter, but meanwhile in '63, they killed one. You want real censorship? Yeah, that's cancel culture, all right? So, the Warren Commission, the very concept, from inception, was to, really like acting like a prophylactic, a preemptive, preventative strike to prevent Lee Harvey Oswald ever getting to court, because had it gone to court, no judge, no jury would have found Lee Harvey Oswald guilty. This is why the Warren Commission was formed, because the government, the CIA, the FBI, those evil men, the likes of the head of CIA, Alan Dulles, and Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ, who was sworn in on Air Force One on the way back. Can you imagine being Jackie Onassis? Can you imagine being, Jackie Kennedy, just mortified? Bear in mind her husband's brains were all over her. Also in the video, speaking of brains, as the back of the president's brains are blown out, and that's why I go on so much about, the sort of front and center shot, the fact that he was shot basically through the head, and the occipital bone, the part of the skull, was blown out. So if you're shot here, it's going to go. You got one in the throat, and you've got one that's just basically taken this portion of the head of the skull out, and that's what was patched up and, frankly, covered up at Bethesda Naval Hospital by two massively inexperienced naval, what's the name of the people that do autopsies? Morticians? No, what's the name of the... What is the name of people that perform autopsies? Pathologist, yeah. Who performs autopsies? Is the autopsies are performed by pathologist. God, I really hurt my neck recently. And God, do you know what? I have slept funny. My neck is killing me. Coming out sympathy of JFK. I'm a simp. So, yeah, dear God, do you know what? I really want to punch myself in the face. I say I don't want to talk about COVID and then proceed to speak for like 30 minutes on COVID nonsense, and then, start to get tired 14 minutes into talking about JFK, which is the title. I've got to discipline myself to start speaking within minutes about the actual topic that I've written down. Twat. That's nearly 45 minutes. I'm going to taper it off now. I'm asking you lot, please forgive me for my shitness, but do watch, do purchase, do not be afraid to spend the money. Just get it, because it's like I say, it's JFK Revisited Through the Looking Glass by Oliver Stone at 1 hour 58 minutes. So let's call it 2 hours. Is really monumentally good filmmaking. Just as a documentary, it's just incredibly well done, but very, very upsetting to know that this is what they did. By the way, if you didn't know, the reason it was done was because He, JFK, was actually intent on real world peace, not nonsense peace that we have now, where America still bully and still punch above their weight, but just actual peace, the actual removal of the military-industrial complex. And this upset the CIA. The CIA don't want peace. They want, just war to be a perpetual thing. And that's what we're probably facing soon is, again, I talk in metaphors, but when JFK made it patently obvious that he was going to withdraw from Vietnam, the general, this is what makes me think of Trump in some ways. I'm not making a direct comparison between Trump and JFK. I don't want to offend anyone, but one thing Trump did with the Middle East was to start to get out. And you can say, oh, Biden's got out of Afghanistan. No, come on, let's look at the Abraham Accords and remember that Trump did get this ball more than rolling. So what I'm essentially saying, guys and girls, is that, Trump, was doing a version of, a diluted version of a Kennedy insofar as he was actually trying to dismantle, he said drain the swamp. And there's a lot of things that Kennedy was doing which was the equivalent of drain the swamp. Look at me getting tired now. Typical. God. God, I'm so annoyed at myself. But withdrawing from Vietnam, not invading Cuba, basically not revving up the war machine. The CIA didn't want this. They continue to cause and just they're great warmongers. They're literal warmongers, and JFK was all about stopping them. I don't know. His love of peace got him killed. That's the terrible irony. So do watch it. It's a far more in-depth version of his previous work. Not that his previous work, I'm talking Oliver Stone now. His previous work, JFK, wasn't a masterpiece, because I think it is a masterpiece. In this revisited documentary, everyone's touched upon, just, you see Operation Mongoose, Operation Northwoods, you see a lot, but what was hinted on in JFK original 92, with Costner and Joe Pesci and the like, Tommy Lee Jones, and just a good cast. Is we're seeing more of it in Through Looking Glass, and as Joe Rogan said, apparently there's a 4-hour version coming soon, which I can't wait for. So look, probably before I start getting too sleepy, I'm going to go off and beat myself up at my flow tonight. I should have put my effort and energy into JFK all the way through. Getting tired. There it goes. All right, Black Lives. Actually, all jokes aside, JFK was about saving Black lives. He really was. And sadly, America entered an era of deep sort of cynicism and just tired now. Tired. Gonna go before I nod off completely. All right, thank you for listening. At 50 minutes long is time for me to go. Oh, Justin, you amateur. All right, guys, thanks a lot. I'll see you tomorrow night, episode 461. Same time, same place, same face. Cheers.